spend some time really having fun. And this is you documenting the perfect day for you. So documenting it in as much detail as you can, and you need to relax with this really, and ideally close your eyes to start off with, and not be interrupted, and start to think about, in 5 years' time, the ideal day for you if you'd achieved everything that you wanted in that time period. So I'm not saying that a miracle's happened. I'm talking about really just your dreams have come true over a 5-year period, and for you to then document from start to finish that day. So I would be writing down, you're waking up, where are you waking up, what do you see when you're waking up, who do you see when you're waking up, if you look out of the window, what can you see, maybe you're outside, I don't know, and what are you feeling, what your sense is feeling, what do you drink, what do you eat, how are you feeling energy wise, what's your regime for getting ready in the morning, are you meditating, what are you eating, what are you drinking, what clothes are you putting on, and then where are you? Are you doing any exercise in the morning? Are you walking up and down a beach, or are you literally just walking to your office? Are you jumping in a car, in a taxi, in a train? How are you actually getting to where you're going? Where are you going? When you get there, who's there? How does it feel? What can you hear? What sounds are there? And what can you see? And how are you feeling? And obviously this is your ideal day, so I imagine you're going to say you're feeling absolutely great. And then what are you doing for lunch? And who are you having lunch with? And what are you having? And what's happening in the afternoon, and what are you looking forward to that evening? And then as the evening comes, and what's the weather like? What are you planning to have to eat? Who you're going to be doing that with? Are you going to any events? Do you have pets? Do you have children? Is it just you? Maybe you're a solitary person. Maybe you prefer to have peace and quiet. Are you reading something? Are you watching something? As I said, is there an event? Are you working? Right the way through, do you go to bed? What's your nightly routine? Where do you go to bed? When you go to sleep, how quickly do you go to sleep? And how do you feel about that day that you've just spent? And again, this is going to be your best day ever. So I imagine that you're going to end that day feeling absolutely fantastic. Now, that's going to take some time for you to do. The beauty of this exercise is that it's going to give you some amazing feel-good feelings, because you're envisaging yourself in a wonderful situation, having achieved all the things that you want to achieve in that 5-year period. And once you've written it, that's something that you're going to be able to refer back to the whole time. And we're going to use this then to condense it down to 10 key goals for this time frame, for this 5-year period. So go and have fun now. Write it up. You can scribble things out, you can add things, you can get it to look exactly as you want it to look. And this is not a set in stone. You can keep changing this as much as you want, but it's lovely to get this sort of thing on paper. It creates a real vision for you and something to work towards. So now you've written up that perfect day, and I imagine you're feeling great because it's such a lovely exercise to do. And we need to sort of continue to be really in a positive mindset while we do this work. I want you to answer some more very specific questions and to write some notes down about this. First thing I want you to think about is your own past up until today. You will no doubt have in your life some things that went really, really well. Magical moments, we call them, where you look back and you can't believe that happened. It was something that you wanted to achieve and something that you wanted to happen, and it did happen. You can either put your finger on it and say, well, I knew it would eventually because I did so many things to make it happen. Or you might say, well, I was wishing for it a lot and focusing on it and thinking about it, and it happened. Either way, you will know what sorts of things happened that were magical for you. And I would write those down, because these are things, aren't they, that you want to repeat. And when you would think about these things, do dwell for a moment on what you did prior to them happening. I imagine you're going to come up with an idea that includes focus, because when you focus on something, it does tend to happen. Maybe not exactly as the way you want, but it does tend to happen. Get some magical moments down there and think about what you did to make them happen. There'll also be in your life some things that happened that you did not want to, that you certainly do not want to repeat. We've all made mistakes. We've all had errors of judgment. We've all made decisions, which, and decisions are always based on what you know at the time. And sometimes, well, mostly actually, our knowledge is incomplete. We have to make decisions based on what we know and what the situation is then. And they say hindsight is a great thing. Well, yeah, of course it is. Because, as time progresses, you get more and more parts of the puzzle, as it were, and you start to be able to see things a lot more clearly. But sometimes we can't wait till we have all the answers, and we have to make decisions. And so there will inevitably be in your past, as there is in mine and everybody else's, some things that you do not want to repeat, you don't want to happen again. And what I would strongly suggest is that you write those down as well. Now, that's not quite such a pleasant a task as the magical moments, but get them down, because then we know what we want to avoid. And then the other thing, whilst we're actually on the sort of the bad news bit, is to think about what I call messes in your life. What messes are there in your life? Things that we all know we need to sort out. This could be anything as simple as maybe just sorting out a messy drawer, or a messy bedroom, or a messy garage or something, right the way through to you have to sell a house, or you have to buy a house, or you know that your lease is coming up and you need to rent somewhere else. Or it could be that you've got a troubled relationship with somebody and you know that a conversation needs to be had. Or it could be that you're stuck in a rut, you've been in the same job for a long time and you know that you need to do something to change. Maybe you hate where you work, or you don't like your colleagues, or maybe it's to do with your body, and for too long you've been unhappy with the way you feel and the way you look, and you want to do something. There's a whole variety of things, messes in our life that we need to sort, and we all know that when we do tackle these things, we feel so much better about them. So let's get those down as well. The things that are niggling you, the things that are bothering you, they could be big things, they can be little things. Put some little things in there as well, because they're going to be the easy ones to tackle first of all. So get those messes down and have them in a category. The other side of the coin to messes, of course, is the challenges and the opportunities and the projects that we could get involved in. And I'm sure you're like me, where there's lots of opportunities that you think, wow, wouldn't it be great to get involved in that? There's sometimes, if you start to think about it, there are just too many opportunities, so many things. I think that's the exciting thing about life. So many things that you could get involved in. Travel that you'd love to do, books you'd love to read, people you'd love to meet, different jobs you'd like to do, and businesses maybe you'd like to create. Different challenges and things to get involved in. This is what really is the spice of life, and the things that make life exciting and give us opportunities for progression. So write those down, the sorts of things that you really would love to get involved in, some of these exciting projects and challenges. And whilst you're on that subject for projects, think bigger picture for a minute. I've asked you to think about an amazing day in 5 years' time, but let's just go sort of one step further and think about things that would be amazing to achieve, things that you would not believe it if you did achieve them. Stretch your thinking a bit. Think, wow, can you imagine if I achieved this type of relationship, that type of body, this type of business, that type of career? Just some things that you would actually want to pinch yourself if they happened. Let's get some of those down. 4 or 5 amazing things that could happen. And now let's look at relationships, because it is the basis of everything that we do, and this is all about people around us, isn't it? The people that we want to spend time with. Often people say to me that they spend loads of time with people they don't want to spend time with, and not enough time with the people they do want to spend time with. Isn't that crazy? So let's get clarity around that. Who do you want to spend your time with? Who do you love spending time with? And who is it that you want to spend more time with going forward from this point onwards? Because we're going to get these things scheduled in to make sure that happens. And on the other side of the coin, if you're spending time with people that you don't want to spend time with, well then let's have a look at that as well. Let's list them down and let's see if we can find ways of minimizing the amount of contact you have with those individuals. We can't all love everybody, so let's be clear on this. And this is only for your eyes, no one else is going to see it. Who do you want to spend more time with? Who don't you want to spend as much time with? And then after that, let's have a look at contribution. A lot of what we've talked about now is progression in one form or another, and relationships and body and finance. But now let's have a look at contribution, because that does make all of us happy, and actually the science shows that when we contribute in some way, we actually have rushes of certain types of hormones that make us feel great. So actually, although you're contributing in some way, it is quite a good thing for us individually, so probably quite a selfish act as well. But think of ways that you could contribute, ways that you would love to contribute. And this could be anything, couldn't it? From just being nice to people, certain people, doing certain things for people, or really going all out and starting to donate to charity, getting involved in charitable work. It could be setting up social enterprises where you're actually helping other people. example. There's tons and tons of ways that we can contribute. So think of some ways that you would love to contribute if you had the time, if you had the money, or any other things that you think have been holding you back in that area so far, and get those down as well. We ought to have now several categories of sort of things to do. They could be moving away from things, so sorting out messes and spending less time with people, but most of them are going to be things that you want to do, projects that you want to achieve, people you want to spend time with, changes that you want to make in your life. Now, what we would need to do is to make sense of all this through prioritization. And the next step is going to be goal setting. And that is going to be scanning everything that you've put there, your ideal day and all of these different categories that we've talked through. And we're going to prioritize those. We're going to start by highlighting the top 10 things right across those pages of what you would like to see happen in the next 3 to 5 years. So next is goal setting. So welcome to Module 5. We are now going to talk about another component really of our goals. All of this is going to add up to a whole series of things that we want to achieve. So I'm well aware that I'm asking you to write a lot of things down. Trust me, I've been through this exercise lots of times myself, and so have lots of people around me as well that I've worked with, and it does work. So don't worry too much that we're putting huge numbers of wish lists together here. It will all come together into a very sort of comprehensive series of goals that you can follow and that we can measure and get progress from. But what we're going to do now is to look at identity. This is a very interesting one. This is about realizing that you can create a brand new identity. To try and explain that a bit more in terms of, what is an identity? An identity is a description of a person. And when we look at our own identity, it's how we see ourselves. We actually have basically an understanding of who we are, and we have almost accepted the identity of who we are. So if I were to ask you some things about yourself, such as your values currently. So people have a very clear sort of persona really, an identity of themselves, even though they don't necessarily think about it very often, and certainly most people haven't chosen it. So they will say things to you like, yeah, I'm very quiet. Yeah, I'm always, the life and soul of the party. I don't actually like doing exercise. I tend to stay up so late. That's just the sort of person that I am. And it's almost people accept how they are and don't realise they can choose how they are. So I want to talk to you about your identity and get you to appreciate that you could actually create a brand new identity. And to do that, what we first need to understand is what you want and what you admire. And once we know the traits, the personality traits that you actually admire, we can then help you to create a brand new identity for yourself, or even just amend your identity so that it's more empowering for you. So let's start with your role models. Who is it that you admire? And I think before we actually talk about that anymore, just write down for me 10 people that you admire and write down beside them why you admire them. Just use one word. So for example, if I say to you David Beckham, what would you think? Do you admire him? If you do admire him, why? Most people, if I ask that question, they say things like tattoos, Victoria Beckham, knighthood, and they tend to like him. And they would tend to write down why they like him, and it will be because of the fact that he's a gentleman, the fact that he's a family man, the fact that he's very handsome. There'll be something. So think about your role models. As I said, do a list. They don't have to be in any particular order, and write down beside them one word that describes why you like them. And also, it doesn't have to be a famous person. It could be somebody that you know personally, a friend, a relative, your mum, your dad. If you really admire somebody that you know, then write them down. And just again, put that descriptive word as to why you like them. So somebody may say that, they hugely admire their mother. Why? Well, it could be she's very hardworking, she's very caring. So just write that word down, because what that's going to do is tell you something about the sorts of things that you value, and therefore the sort of identity that you would like to create. The next thing I'd like you to do is to think about personality traits. Personality traits that you like to see in a person and personality traits that you don't. And then to start to think about your own personality traits, the ones that you like and the ones you don't. So let's start first of all with personality traits that you like. They could be brave, courageous, daring, hardworking. They could be laid back, excitable, questioning. There's a whole variety of different personality traits. Things that describe the behaviour of individuals. What sorts of personality traits do you like, and what ones don't you like? And then think about, after you've made that list, about your own personality traits. We all have so many different types of personalities. You can normally tell when you're in an empowering personality that you enjoy because you feel good. You can also tell when you're in a personality which is disempowering and that you don't enjoy because you don't feel good. And so let's take a personal example for me. If I'm actually in the flow at work, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, some ideas are pumping, we're getting things done, I feel great. Now what is that? That for me is my productive, empowered businesswoman personality. Now I can give that a name. I'll give that a name. I'll call that the CEO. For me, that just conjures up all of those things. But let's have a look at sometimes if I'm tired, things are going wrong, I'm not absolutely confident that the things that I want to achieve I'm going to achieve on time. I feel a bit annoyed, I feel irritated with people around me. What is that? I actually associate that with fear. That is a fearful personality. That is a personality that really comes from very, very far in my background where I was maybe less secure, less confident of my abilities and fearful that I wouldn't be able to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. And I know that that personality can raise its head, particularly when I feel tired and particularly when I get setbacks. That is my fearful personality. I have a name for it. I'm very aware of that as well because, when you get these personalities raise their head and you're aware of them, you can shut them down. So you will have personalities as well. You will have excitable, happy, productive, progressive types of personalities. You will know the ones you like because they will make you feel great. You will also have the negative ones that will make you feel frustrated, angry, tired, victimized, bullied, whatever they are. And those are the personalities that you will not want to raise their head in your day-to-day life. So you can actually depict these personalities as well on a piece of paper. You can draw them, and I tend to draw them in fluffy clouds. So I'll draw all the different personalities of Angela, and then I will actually cross out the ones that I don't like. You can be really honest because no one's going to see this, but you can draw out the personalities that don't make you feel good, are not the best form of you, and that are disempowering for you. So with those ones, I'd cross them out, and with the ones that you like, I would leave those as the ones that are not crossed out. They're the ones that you really want to try and stay in. And you can actually, when you're aware of these personalities, you can switch. The minute you start to feel negative, maybe the minute you start to feel frustrated, angry, tired, fearful, you can snap out of it by moving your body. And we're going to get onto the physiology and the body in the next module. Obviously, this is mindset, but just to let you know that that's why your body and your mind are so linked, because to move from one personality to the next, you literally can step and it can change your personality. You can move your arms about, you can jump up and down with your body, and immediately you can get into a different personality. So we're going to teach you some of those in the next module. But the fact is, you can shift from personality so fast, from a negative one to a positive one. But if you're not careful, you can move from the positive one to the negative one as well without noticing it. So what I would say to you at this point is we've identified personalities, traits that we like. We've now looking at personality traits ourselves, the ones that we like that help us, the ones that we don't, and we're trying to depict that on a piece of paper. So I'll leave you some time to do that now. There's some examples in the ebook that you can see, but actually have a go at depicting your personality types. So now you've depicted all of the personalities on a page, you'll have an image now of the ideal you. There's one thing that we also need to add to it though, and that is language. Interestingly, when we feel great, we use certain language. We use descriptive language, which is positive, supportive, and tends to be happy. And you'll have your own phrases. I'll be saying things like fab, amazing, super. You'll have yours. When we are negative, when we're in those personalities that you crossed out, when we're not feeling so great, we'll have different types of language. And those will be other trigger words. Sometimes they might be swear words. They certainly are for me, so I'm not going to tell you what they are. But there would be a different type of language that you use when you are in those less empowering personalities. So write the empowering words down for you, and write the disempowering words down for you as well. And then with the disempowering words, be aware that those words are going to be a trigger to place you in that bad personality. It's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So cross those words out. You want to try not to use those. Emphasize the words that you use when you're in a great personality. You want to try and use those as much as you can. So we've got an image of you now, haven't we? Well, you certainly have, in your various pages of writing, because you've documented this amazing day. You've visualized yourself in a lot of detail going about that day. You've seen yourself in a lot of detail. Obviously, as part of that, you've seen the people that you're interacting with, and you've seen the job that you're doing, and just how you're sort of spending your time. And then what you've done is you've written down the empowering personalities, the great personalities that really help you to achieve what you want to achieve. And you know the language that you use as well. And you also know who your role models are. You've listed all those role models, and you've actually identified why they are your role models. And those notes that you've made by each of those role models actually represent your values. They represent the things that are important to you. Why do you find somebody a role model? Well, you've said why. Well, if that's your why, that must mean that you think that is important, and it must be something that you admire. So if you start to take all of that as a picture about you and the future you and the you that you aspire to being, what we need to do now is to really lock that in our mind. And we can do that by naming that identity, because that all together is the new you. That's the identity that we want you to basically manifest and realize and make real. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But before we do it, we need to actually give it a name. Now I'm going to show you what I did when I went through this exercise. There was, for me, a time where I didn't have the body that I wanted, as most of you know who will look at my history. And although from the outside world, my business was performing very well, I just wasn't in the personality and the identity that I needed to be. I wanted to be a lot calmer. And it was really important to me, because I was like that proverbial swan gliding around. Everybody thought that I had everything to hand, and yes, I did. But underneath, I was pedaling like fury, and I was working so many hours, and I felt quite frankly exhausted. And I didn't look how I wanted to look. So on the one side, I was achieving, but I wasn't achieving happily, and I didn't have the energy levels that I wanted. And then the other side, I didn't look like I wanted to look by a long shot. I was out of shape. And it was alien feeling to me, because I was used to feeling and looking energetic. So my identity, doing all the same exercises that I've talked through with you, was something called the calm toned CEO. Now, you don't have to share your identity. For me, that was the one that I chose at that time. I have another one now, and this will change actually. So I'm not going to share the one with you that I have now. Because these are personal, and these are personal goals that we work towards. But what I want to show you is what happened. One day someone presented to me a picture of me in such a way, and I don't know if you can see that, but I looked at that picture. I remember like yesterday walking into the meeting, and this is my marketing agency, just sort of popping that on my desk, and I thought, oh my goodness, there's the calm tone CEO. And I was shocked. I shocked myself with what you can achieve, because that was so different. And I know that I look toned there, but what you wouldn't know from looking at that picture, but what I know is I was totally calm there, and I feel totally calm now. And it's a complete change of persona, and it did not happen by accident. It happened through basically taking all the steps that you're taking now. So you're on a journey, and I can absolutely assure you that this is going to achieve some amazing things for you. We just need to follow the footsteps.